Let's get some more on that, and we're joined by economist Karen Heese via Skype to explain what this means for us ordinary citizens. Karen, a very good morning to you, and thanks for your time. Yes, we see all of the words, we see the sentiment expressed, municipalities mostly going backwards, we're seeing regression, we're seeing dysfunction, all of the negative words creeping in. So simply, what does this mean for us tax-paying citizens?
Morning. Well, in short, I think there was a tweet from the AG which is really important, which said that local government is just essentially not showing its accountability. So what it means is we pay our rates. Local government, and of course not all local government, but many municipalities receive funding from the fiscus, and that money is not properly accounted for and often misspent without any accountability by those misspending it.
So I suppose the question is, why is it so difficult for us to get this right? I mean, to have 33 out of 257 municipalities only receiving clean audits. Who basically is not doing their job?
It really starts at the very top level. Political leadership needs to take audit outcomes seriously. They need to push initiatives through council. So we see massive amounts of irregular and unauthorized spending in local government, and in 61% of cases there just wasn't adequate follow-through by councils. So it's a political issue very much. It's holding everybody to account. Pressure groups, including councillors and communities, need to also play a role in demanding those answers. But it ultimately comes from the top down, and we see evidence in that. We see where there is a decision taken to get audit outcomes to improve, that it really does happen. But it has to become a priority.
Karen, I mean, I can't imagine that residents in certain areas, in municipalities, homeowners, don't actually bring things up when there's a problem, that they don't point out what the problems are in their areas. So you'd have to imagine that somebody is not listening, because and nobody can say that they're unaware of where the problems are or where to even begin fixing them.
I think one of the things we have to look at is not any pressure from communities, because I think it is, as you're suggesting, sometimes difficult to translate your lights are left on all day, and does that lead to fruitless expenditure? It's quite a technical point. So I think it's important that information is fed back to councils. But I think what we also need to start doing, and it's really a sad day for local government when we say this, is we need to start giving the Auditor General more powers. And this is actually before Parliament and being considered, because the AG's office has shown year in and year out very much the same message of calling for decisive leadership, calling for accountability, calling for incentives. And I think what the AG now needs is greater powers, powers for remedial action when they see something going amiss, referring it to the relevant authorities. And I think all stakeholders in local government should support this initiative.
Well, I think that, Karen, just on that point, and just responding to the AG's report, we know that the chair for Parliament's Oversight Committee of the Auditor General, that's Vincent Smith, said now that they've the Public Audit Act amendments that were approved yesterday should give the Auditor General powers to refer matters to the Hawks, SAPS and the Public Protector, and help recoup public money. So do you think that will work, and to what extent, how far will it go in actually solving this problem?
I think it will help significantly, because the Auditor General has a very good understanding of municipalities. It's quite interesting in South Africa, the extent to which the Auditor General has become part of an assessment process. From traditionally really just a sort of accounting and auditing role, the Auditor General is looking at all sorts of very broad-ranging issues like capacity, financial health. So there's a very profound understanding. The only concern, of course, and the AG mentioned this yesterday, is that his staff are actually encountering quite hostile environments. So I think it is a positive thing for ratepayers, for residents, and ultimately for local government in becoming more accountable and ensuring better service delivery. It does just put more pressure, I think, on the AG's office and its officials.
Well, I suppose we have to at some point do a comparison, Karen, and ask how do we fare when it comes to, well, anywhere else in the rest of the world when it comes to this issue of our municipalities. And I mean, they may call it different things in other countries, districts or however they name them, but how do we fare in sort of when it comes to the equivalent of what we're dealing with here elsewhere?
What's very interesting in South Africa is we have very much a unique model of local government. Our local government is constitutionally as empowered as national and provincial government. Where there are issues, as we see in the Northwest, there can be measures taken to step in and take control. But on paper, local government is highly empowered. And that was a very noble idea at the time of the drafting of the Constitution. I'm afraid maybe it needs to be re-looked at, reconsidered when we look at the audit results and see not only that they continue to be generally quite poor for the sector, but actually regressing. So possibly if we look at other countries, what they have is very much local, they're called local authorities, are more tiers, and they're answerable to higher divisions of provincial, regional, or national government. And then auditing functions, as I suggested, just becomes very much an accounting process. So we are quite unique, and it's hard to compare. But unfortunately, I would say very much the idea of spherical government has been called into question due to, unfortunately, capacity issues of accountability, and issues of corruption.
All right, thanks very much for that insight. Economist from Municipal IQ, Karen Heese via Skype.